Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
And we'll go through our typical, if you want to reach out to us, you can find us at ittasteslikeburningcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at ITLBcast. You can search for us on Patreon if you're feeling extra spicy. We'll send you stickers and, I don't know, maybe personal thoughts of Jesse doing something exciting or interesting on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, there's always that. We'll get you something in there to make it worthwhile. We appreciate all the patrons that we do have, and that's helping us to get things like this video going, which is important to us.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're also, chances are you'll never see the video to this, but we've told one of our newest members and teammates to our journey is our new producer, and well, hell, I already forgot his name.
Dalton.
Is it Dalton?
Yeah.
Okay, Dalton it is.
Yeah.
So eventually we'll probably drag him into the video part, but that's what he's working on in the background right now.
Learning how to make all this happen, right? Because it's so far out of our, we started this just some guys that could have a good conversation and progress that into the audio format that we've been doing for almost 2 years now. And now we're progressing into the video side of things, and we're so much fish out of water in this. The technology is well above me. I did good to get voices on a recording, and now we're stepping it up a notch.
I don't know if I'd say it's above us as much as I would just say the time. There's other things going on, so trying to figure out how to stretch your hobby into something that's beneficial for someone, and then trying to make something of it, it's weird. It just is. Granted, there's a 9-year-old in Poughkeepsie that is probably a universal master at this, but unfortunately he doesn't know how to operate a doorknob, so no one will ever discover them.
Yeah. It's definitely not 48-year-old me.
The last thing is, as we continue to mature, build, and develop our little podcast experiment, two schmucks trying to fix the world, don't hesitate to ever give us a like or subscribe. That's truly what we're trying to drive after right now. We have inadvertently stumbled into something pretty big that's coming up in a couple of months for us, and particularly for our weird little podcast here. And the next couple of weeks and months are going to be us preparing for that. And I don't know if we want to let the cat out of the bag just yet on that, because it is official, but it's scary. So, yeah. And so that's what you'll be hearing from us, is a lot of what we'll be doing is preparing for our event in June.
Yep.
So on today's docket, it's a new year, new election, new department, and the same old people there.
Yeah. Just rearranged a little bit, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, it's talked about me having a new responsibility and a new position at the first of the year, and that's come to be actually the assistant chief now. So that's a little bit new. I've been an assistant chief before somewhere else, so it's not totally new. I've got an idea of what that entails, but it's new here, and it's giving up responsibilities that you had prior to somebody new to take those responsibilities, and it's the transition of all that, and believe it or not, our department has really good people that are really good and flexible at doing different jobs, and the guy that I'm taking his spot is really open to his new opportunities and his new role, and really open to my opportunities and my new role, and just a different take on things, and new ideas.
Right. I think the big difference going into this year, and I've already been in a highly luxury position. The vast majority of my work is chief, is admin. The vast majority of my work. I mean, it's still personnel when personnel issues pop up, but I don't really handle operations, so to say. Perfect example. The weather's glorious in Texas right now. It is a balmy like 12 degrees at noon, and the wind's blowing. Well, we had some frozen diesel pumps this morning. I wasn't the first person called. Actually, in fact, I was by far the last person called, which is fine by me because all the operations guys were already taking care of it. I found out about it after they were advising everyone on the department through our group messaging software that things were afoot and solutions were needed. And by the time I dragged my carcass up there, about the only thing I could equivocally contribute to was a grunt and a point. That's a godsend of a position to be in. And like I said, on the flip side of it is it allows us to focus a little bit more on kind of the administrative side of things. So you have the physical operation of the department, the budgeting, and budget season's right around the corner for us. And then any of the extracurricular stuff that, God forbid, we might actually have the time to be able and run with on that. And that's something that's truly unique in my position, but also for Jesse this coming year. We talked about something that you'd like to work on. What is that?
Kind of one of my big goals is recruitment and seeing how far I can actually take that. We do pretty good, and we have a steady stream of new members, and our roster is in the last 4 years has doubled, right?
Yeah.
So can we double it again in the next 4 years? Is that possible to go ahead and double it again, or is that something that we need to figure out different solutions for? And is doubling it again what we need to do?
I truly don't know the answer to that. No, that's one of the greatest problems to have. Oh no, we're growing so much that we don't know what to do with all these people theoretically. That's a good problem to have. And God spare us if we ever get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, we're poised to have more growth. We're in a good spot to continue to grow. We might as well ride it, in my opinion, and see how far we can take it. And if that gets us to, we're a relatively large city with a pretty decent call volume, and it's not unheard of for 100 or 150 members to be what's taking care of that population and that call volume. Is it practical? We don't know, but we'll figure that out, and maybe if we overshoot it, then worst case scenario, all you got to do is not replace the ones that leave, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not this really trivial thing. I don't see any reason to take any theoretical problems that arise from it and treat it like a derailing event. You just incorporate what you learn, fix the mistakes, or change your outcome. I mean, it may completely change whatever in the department. Embrace it. See what it does for the organization. Now, the core of the discussion today, and this goes right into the recruiting theme, is department awareness and communications. You can't sit there and try and hammer recruitment, particularly if the department doesn't know you're doing that, and they're, I would argue, not open and receptive to it. Now, for us, this has been a common theme for a while, and it's not going to be a gigantic news flash to anyone when we tell any of our members that, hey, by the way, we're coming into a new budget year or a new seasonal year, calendar year, and our little fire academy is going to start in March, and right now we only have 2 people in it, so we're going to make sure that we take the next, 14 weeks. Not 14, I guess it's not nearly that far out. 8 weeks.
10.
And see if we can drag in another 5 to 15 people into our academy and hit the ground running. And the kicker with that, though, is that there's a meeting that we had I think it was yesterday, right, Jesse, where we talked to a specific group of people, kind of shake us through what we talked about there, the communications and what we were communicating.
Yeah, so we had a meeting yesterday with the, we might as well call it training division, right? It's big enough now that it's kind of its own division in the department, training is. So we met and we talked about how, one, the passing of the torch, so to speak, and the how it's going to evolve from where myself and my lieutenant took it to where it's going to evolve now that it has new leadership. It was 2 of us last year. It's 4 of them this year, just to try to divide the workload to some extent, because it is a massive amount of work. I kind of backed myself into a corner on that by growing and growing and growing and doing more and taking on more and not backfilling with extra people. I was still backfilling with extra people, but they were just the random ones that I would grab on the side. They weren't actually tasked with that as a formal task.
Right. Well, and one thing that you accomplished last year was, for lack of better words, we refined, built, and engineered an actual online classroom. And the kicker with that is that I know how much time, energy, and effort that actually takes. And truly, by the end of it, it's awesome. And when you're done with that, the program's finished, it's packaged, the bow's on it, and you are ready to hand that off because you're exhausted. And it's exhausting to be able to sit there and try to work your way into teaching the classes, doing the training, having the skills, having the testing, having the end of the year graduation ceremony. But by the way, you built this entire program on the side. And truthfully, it is. By the time you're done, you're just exhausted.
Yeah.
So when you build a program like that, you're done. I'm telling you, I know what happened, because this is exactly what happened to me. Is that you're already busy. You're putting the appropriate time, energy, and effort in to provide the actual training. And on the back end, you built a program, and you've done the hard work now, and it's vacation time. And you are more than willing to hand that off to just about anyone. The truly scary thing, though, is who do you hand it off to? Because I've been on the other side of that when you do hand it off, I watched it implode. And it's infuriating, aggravating. Really, 4-letter words are more appropriate to describe how you feel about that. And in this particular case, the handoff is going to work. because of who we're handing it off to and the group.
Yeah, there's no doubt they'll take it to even a level higher than what I took it to. My my expectations and aspirations for them to achieve way more than I ever achieved is so great that it's just undeniable. One good thing is that there's one person carrying over. The kind of the two lead guys have been involved in training in that kind of aspect before, so they have good knowledge and good experience to go with it. And they're both guys that are goal oriented and achieve stuff. They're not just slouches.
Now, the other thing I was going to ask you about is in this meeting, did we only talk about our fire academy?
No, it was department training, special ops training. There's 40 different forms of training that goes on annually in the department, medical training, that are all kind of their own facets of that. But then the big underlying theme and conversation was all that was you've got to communicate. Like, it's got to be a team effort, a group effort, and to have that group effort and that team effort, there's got to be a certain level of communication amongst the group to achieve that.
Right. And probably one of the bigger things that I'd reiterate to anyone and everyone out there is the communication can't be top down. It needs to be, and particularly this setup, I would argue, more bottom out. And the top is just going to sit there and, for lack of better words, be like, okay, how much money do you want? What can I do to help you with that program? What have you considered, the constructive criticism and input of that? You're wanting to do a reinvigoration of our rescue ops stuff. Okay. What options have you considered with this? Have you reached out to any instructors or companies or organizations or anything? So you can sit there and give constructive criticism and input that gets them, at this case, the lieutenants, to actually start to actually try and look at the bigger picture. And it's more than just tying knots or swimming like a duck. How do you want to accomplish that?
Exactly. My problem is I swim like a frog because my feet bump my butt. So that precludes me from any water activities. So thank God.
But that's the kicker with all this is that communication factor. Don't get me wrong, you're chief, top down. That's the structure of it. But if you want people to actually have some sort of input and ownership, it goes back to Chief Lasky's pride and ownership statement. If you sit there and go out of your way to make sure that you micromanage it and that the entire program, operation, class, personnel falls in your shadow, well, I tell you, people don't like that. They want their opportunity to do a couple of things. They've already expressed interest in the program, so give them the leeway and the opportunity to make the mistakes so that they can have the program. Give them the chance to make it theirs. There's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, this allows us to simply show up to these classes and just help to fill gaps. We didn't have to build a lesson plan. We didn't have to put anything together. We just standing there and being told what to do and where to be for the students. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's the easy part. Just giving people the opportunity to take something and make it their own. That's a critical function in these volunteer fire departments. And you can't micromanage it. You just can't.
Well, and that goes back to one of my Jesse-isms, right? And I a handful of them, but literally give them a job, give them a responsibility. And if that responsibility is whatever, doesn't matter. It could be as simple as, you're responsible for the kitty litter.
Right.
That at least gives them some ownership of something that keeps them, one, involved, but two, it gives them something to take a little bit of pride in, even if it is kitty litter. It just works. It works 100% of the time. You're going to have that person that's just inherently lazy, so you've got to kind of hold those people accountable. But outside of that, most of them are going to buy in because they're not inherently lazy to even show up and be there, right?
Right. Yeah. It's, in my personal experience, which is whatever, biased, one-sided, but at least it's highly opinionated. It's the classic tradition statement. Okay. But in this particular case, it's personal pride and tradition and a hunger for wanting to be recognized as El Jefe Grande, the Grand Poobah and master of all, okay, versus what are you actually trying to do to remedy the solution? Does it have to be made in your image for it to be a solution? I'm going to argue no. And my argument for no is simply because, one, it's going to get done, and two, I don't want to spend the time on that. I've got other projects. We've got people. Give them the opportunity to show that they care and they give a damn also. And I'm perfectly fine that the training program is in the shadow of Jesse and now soon to be in the shadow of 4 others. I think it's good for the organization.
Yeah. So, and Matt, you get asked, and I get asked all the time, how did we gain some of these cultures and some of the things that work in our department? One of them the other day was, the cleanliness of the station or whatever. But so I know that there's people asking, how did we make training so important to us, and how did we make that a priority, and how did we get the buy-in of the membership? And honestly, I've got a pretty good answer for it. And we ask so much of that new person, right? They're coming in, and in that first 6 months, we're asking them to accomplish basically NIMS 1, 2, 7, and 8, courage to be safe,
Traffic incident
management, the cancer awareness class, hazmat awareness and operations, firefighter 1 and 2. That's a lot for them to knock out in 6 months. So through that process, we're creating that to them becomes the norm.
Right.
And it develops a hunger for more knowledge and more, that's not the end of the road. That's the beginning of the road. And we truly put it out as this is the beginning. This is step 1 to get you to the point where you're a viable member of this organization, right?
Right.
So then coming off of that, you've got to give them more. You can't just let them, that be the end, and all you do is show up to calls and you've got your training and the big rubber stamp goes on it and you're good to go, because it's not that. Because there's the rope rescue, the water rescue, the vehicle extrication specialist stuff. There's 100 different things, instructors and all these other certifications that are out there to be had, right?
Right.
And that knowledge. So we create that thirst for the knowledge by basically cramming a whole bunch of knowledge into them at the beginning. And then they accept that as the norm, and then it just carries on from there.
Yeah. One thing that I have made a huge implication on is, and people don't actually understand. They truly, I'm gonna give like my rat brain psychology stuff here. I can tell you on the one hand how many times I've ever asked someone to clean a truck. I don't ask people to clean a truck. I ask people to go through the trucks. And what I ask people is know the trucks, know the tools, know the equipment, know what's broke, know what's working, know its location, know how to operate it. And here's the crazy thing. If people do that and they actually go out and get hands on the trucks, they're going to notice it's dirty. They're going to clean it. I don't ask people to clean trucks. There's no reason to. Let's be practical. Dirty fire truck doesn't have anything to do with someone's efficiency on a fire. It has nothing to do with their efficiency and able to operate on a car accident. It has nothing to do with a cat in a tree. Okay, but if everyone knows where all the stuff is at, the tools, the equipment, the gear, and how to operate it on the truck, and they're actually going through all that stuff, they're going to notice that the compartments are jacked up. They're going to notice that tools aren't organized. They're going to notice that while they were all over the truck, that their pants got dirty or their shirt got dirty because they were leaning on it. And then they're going to go wash it. Don't be careful what you preach and you harp on and your messaging. Your ability to effectively communicate can be a completely hidden agenda for the greater good and still be fantastic for the individual and build them as a person. And I'm talking way beyond skills on scene. You're building that person. And the whole time they're doing it and they don't even realize that they're doing it. And I think people discount your ability to communicate and what the intent of your message is with communication. And be careful dictating your message, because your message sometimes can be implied literally or subconsciously ignored. So and I know it sounds like a big stretch there. I'm telling you, I don't ask people to clean trucks. It's pointless. I don't care if the truck's shiny. What I care about is, do they know how to operate the crap in the truck? And oddly enough, when they know how to operate the crap in the truck, they realize that the truck needs to be cleaned.
Well, and it goes back to what I was saying about all the training that we're cramming into them and all that. Once they realize that they're actually competent and they have knowledge,
right?
It's so much easier for them to buy into all those other things, like the truck's clean, the station's clean. Like that just becomes second nature to them because they take pride in what they're doing, and the pride is what causes the other things to happen.
Right, and again, it's because you're building the individual. You're not just carte blanche blasting a message at them and telling them that their value is in their ability to operate a mop. Their value is their ability to operate on scene competently. And that's done by being familiar with the apparatus, not with the mop.
Yeah, the mop and the wash brush and all that comes from the pride in the organization,
right?
Ultimately, and it's a big stretch because that's not how a lot of our predecessors were brought into things and how they were brought through the system, because it was very dictatorial and you're leaning on those traditions as how some of that stuff happened, and we've taken an ideological swing as to how those things get accomplished.
Right.
And that's growing pain. There's growing pains with that. That is not a overnight thing. It's not a deal. And there's an event coming up or something where the truck actually needs a parade or whatever, and the truck actually needs to be cleaned. There's messages that go out and say, hey, we need to make sure that this is done or whatever. And it's more or less just to let everybody know that the event's happening.
Right.
Yeah. And usually the announcement of the event, the other details take care of themselves.
Yeah. I can't overemphasize the effect of effective communication and not not getting caught up in the title of your position.
Yeah.
Just because you're chief doesn't mean that you know how to communicate. Doesn't mean that you're a CEO or you own a company or you're your own boss, that you effectively know how to communicate. And it's worth spending the time, energy, and effort on YouTube or taking classes, God forbid if you have the time, on how to actually communicate. Now, I truly know that communication is something that can be self-taught. But usually people that are very, very effective communicators, they all kind of have for lack of better words, a inquisitive personality, and they don't have a problem with the discussion. Don't get me wrong, you can still get a dictator in that position, and it can eat you alive. But just again, your ability to communicate is going to ultimately be how the organization is run combined with your messaging.
Yeah.
It's hitting really low and kind of below the belt. If you're a little man in a big position, it's going to be a rough ride for you.
Yeah.
And if it is, again, Grand Poobah El Jefe Extreme World Dominator, Department of 3, good luck, because there's a lot that has to happen there. And if you're treating it like you're Nero and this is Rome, it won't work. It just won't. I've been chief long enough. I've started to run into a lot of different types of departments. And I'll tell you, a common theme you bump into is that funding problem. I'll tell you, the other thing that I'm seeing is a real common theme is their inability to communicate their need to their citizens, to their local leaders, to their department.
Well, they tend to look at it like it's exposing the underbelly of the organization, right? It's vulnerable. You're vulnerable if you have a need or you have something that you're struggling with that looks vulnerable, and you look like you're not adequately doing the job. But the reality is if you don't have needs or something that you're working on, you're going backwards, right?
Well, I would argue that particularly in the times of where you're really in trouble, okay, whether it be politically or fiscally or management wise or morale, the camaraderie part, that's when you really need to actually be opening up about what's going on. And here's the problem. These are all my personal opinions on what's affecting the problem. What is everyone else's input? What is your solution? Who do you know that we can maybe talk to? And sit there and realize that you need to be able to really reach out there and dig deep. Find the help that is actually available to you. And even if you're in a tiny community, again, I refuse to believe that you don't have resources. If you're not communicating your needs, they will not know. You can't get help until people know.
Yeah, goes back to the adage of you don't get what you don't ask for.
Right.
That there's very few times in the history of the organization that somebody's come to you and said, hey, I really think y'all need this, and I'm going to provide that for you. That doesn't happen. I mean, that's so rare that it's non-existent.
I only know of one entity that has that.
Yeah, and it just doesn't make sense to look at it from that other perspective. Go figure out the problem, figure out the solution, ask for help, ask for what you need. And if the help is financial, okay. If the help is whatever, just go find it. And don't be afraid to kind of, I guess, expose your shortcomings, right? That doesn't mean throw it out there on the internet and say we suck at structure fires or whatever it is. Don't, you can still frame it in a light to where it's not, making you feel completely inadequate.
Yeah, but you can really step out there, and let's just say that you do step out there, and you're like, wow, our department, we need some help with some actual structure firefighting. Okay, and you're reaching out for some input. All right, to me, that expresses a great sign of competency, because one, you're willing to address that you have a problem, and God forbid that you're willing to reach out for a solution outside of that problem. And then three, the fact that you're willing to admit the problem publicly. I mean, to me, that shows a next level of competence in saying that I'm not going to sit here and waste X amount of time when I have all these resources around me to be a potential solution to the problem I have. Because again, it's anything in a volunteer fire department can be measured on the time scale of like geological movements. It takes forever sometimes to get the most meaningful impacts, but it takes what feels like an ice age for the event to finally roll over and happen. Just go get the help. To me, it's 10 times easier to just go get the help, because then you can finally address the issue and move on to the next thing. You might inadvertently stumble into something that's not a solution. You might inadvertently find something that's the be-all, end-all, and it's the greatest thing you've ever heard. And I do, it's, from my perspective, it's frustrating when I see other departments around us that sometimes are struggling so hard. And it's like, why are you, I mean, one, thank you for asking me, but two, go to the people that are the solution to you. You got to talk to them.
Yeah.
I can't solve your funding problem. I can give you some ideas, but every idea I'm going to give you is an idea that I've used and tried and works for me. But that's me. And I have a completely different funding resource and outcome and possibilities than you do. And for you, you need to go talk to whoever your, local leaders are, whether it be your commissioners or city council or, your HOA president, or maybe it's a big ranch in the area, oil companies, whatever. It's just, if you're not communicating, it's not going to work. Now, the other thing I want to add on communicating, because we can't kind of keep talking about the bad here, and problem solving in the sense of, oh God, my hair's on fire. What do I do? Communicate your successes too. When you've done something right or good, let the department know. Let the member know. Praise the member. Let that individual know that you really appreciate what they did. Thank you.
Let the public know.
Let the public know. Communication. There's many forms of communication, particularly in this modern age. You don't have to have carrier pigeons anymore and send smoke signals.
And so I'm going to bounce into one little thing that's kind of been our goals for the year and stuff that we're working on that goes right in line with this communication stuff and all that. One of our objectives is to kind of improve some interdepartmental processes and kind of the behind the scenes stuff to invoke better communication in these processes and help to streamline stuff, get the right people the right information at the time that they need it. There's a lot that goes into that. But the conversation we had the other day with the assistant city manager was revolved around the fact that we're actually in a really good place for that to be the goal, right?
Right.
That to be one of the things that we're working on. Whereas we could just kind of rest on the laurels of, hey, we're running pretty smoothly. There's not a lot to do, but the reality is, let's improve the things, the small things that we can improve to help make it better for the people that come behind us, make it better for us, our future members, make all that, clean it up a little bit, make it more open, more easy to understand, easy to get something done, all the way from the, hey, my helmet's broken to how do I get a new engine for the truck?
Right. It's more than in a period of peace going on vacation. You have the opportunity where things are good. We're in a good spot. We're growing and developing. Let's immediately enter into a period of stagnation and coast. Why? I mean, now's the time when you actually try something a little bit different and you actually try a different process or implement standardization or whatever you're after. It's now's the time to do it because you can introduce and interject a little chaos right now because that's what it'll be. I mean, you're basically just taking a bag of cats, dumping them out on the ground and lighting them on fire and then smiling at the membership and walking away. If you don't do it right, or God forbid, communicate it right. But I would argue now's the time to do it and to sit there and actually let the membership know, like, hey, we're in this good spot. We want to try some different stuff and we want to call it a day. And we want to work off of this, and we want to see where this is going to take us.
And all that stuff boils back to that communication side of things. It's all in how we're going to communicate the individual's needs, the department's needs, the status of things, the ordering processes, all that stuff that right now, a bunch of it sits on one person's shoulders or two people's shoulders. Or let's get that stuff out to where everybody kind of knows what's going on at any given moment if they want to know what's going on.
And a lot of that also has to do with just the size of our department. The fact of the matter is that, and I'm one of the worst, and I follow the long lineage of the other, oh hell, there's probably 30, 35 other men before me. I was chief, where we all compartmentalized everything. And that's not good because we're not a department of 5 anymore. We're a big organization, medium big at least. And that is not a good thing when you compartmentalize everything into one individual. You can't sit there and compartmentalize everything like that because God forbids, like in my case, I may have to be checked into the state mental health institution, after this. And our ability to get the processes and checklists and procedures established really, really does help eliminate a lot of that compartmentalization that I'm doing now. And I'm just as guilty of it as our operations captain and our station captains. And the people that are terrible at it is the older, longtime members.
Yeah. I'm just over here watching Dalton just struggle like a fish on the bank trying to figure out this video stuff. It's doing good for him.
Well, on my screen, it looks fine.
Yeah.
But I keep seeing YouTube, for lack of better words, just wave your arms and like, hope he just grabbed a fire extinguisher. Maybe it's not okay.
It's not okay. But Yeah, why don't you hit camera 2 right quick there? Y'all are going to live through this with us because that is what it is. But throw that up into the... There we go. So there's that extra view that we've been looking for. So the camera that normally points at me said good night, and that's one of those things that takes a person to go touch it to make it work. But we're at a pretty good wrapping up point, I think.
Yeah, we really are. It's just, again, guys, communication. There's like 14,000 books on this. There's 16,000 audio books. There's YouTube, TikTok, Insta, Facebook.
There's a couple idiots sitting here talking about it right now.
I mean, communication is a foundational part of an organization. And you can have a fantastic organization in place. And if you can't effectively communicate, you can derail it. And vice versa. You can have an organization in rough shape. You fix the communication part of this, shockingly, it's going to start pulling itself together because everyone is actually getting the message and everyone now has a common purpose.
Yep. Well, with that,
guess we'll go through the old notes again real quick. If you ever have any questions, concerns, comments, or you ever want to talk to us about a specific subject, please reach out to us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at ITLBcast. Give us a subscription if you're feeling particularly interested. On Patreon, we can get you stickers, and we're working on some other stuff right now. We're maybe looking at creating a patch. Big news to come in June, and we'll announce that before June. And then the big one is if you ever bounced across this on YouTube, the like, click, and subscribe, and I think also ring the bell.
Yeah.
That's a big one there too. The whole purpose of this is just to try and get awareness on volunteer fire departments and have a discussion on tentative solutions for volunteer fire departments.
Yeah, because the ones that are doing it right are knocking it out of the park, and the ones that are doing it wrong,
they're struggling.
And it's not that everything we do is right, but we go find people to talk to, and we have great guests, and the opportunities are there. If you've got something that's working and you've got this bang up operation in some aspect, reach out to us. We'll get you on here. We'll talk about it. I mean, what's our guest the other day said their motto is case, copy, and steal everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So.
All right. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
And I'll speak for Dalton here. Good job, Dalton. I think. You got the fire out. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.